Okay, let's rewind back about 14 hours. There was breaking news, I think it was from the Daily Mail, and they suggested that David Moyes and Tim Steidten had a massive falling out, a monster falling out, no less. This resulted in Steidten being banned from the West Ham training ground and the West Ham dressing room. Now, I know a lot of people think, well, hold on, why is he in the dressing room anyway? The fact of the matter is, he has been up until recently. In fact, up until the Liverpool game, he was not in the dressing room for the Liverpool game. So this is actually relatively old news, but it's a new story because it's just been reported, basically. As I say, the Daily Mail sort of broke it. He does have an office at the London Stadium, but he also has an office, I'm talking about Tim Steidten here, at the training ground. So him being sort of banned from the training ground is quite significant. Now, understandably, because no part of this is good news and reflects well on the club, there were a lot of people who are coming out to dismiss this as a story, albeit slightly. Not to dismiss the story in its entirety, but to say, well, hold on, here's some context. Steidten hasn't been banned. Steidten has removed himself from the situation. So Steidten has taken himself away from the dressing room and away from the training ground so as not to put extra pressure on David Moyes. It's understood that David Moyes was not particularly happy with Steidten's role in the whole Ruben Amorim thing, and the fact that it's well known within the club that Steidten is looking for a successor for David Moyes. Whoa, I mean, that's really quite something. Even if we accept the latter version of events, and I do, it still ain't great. It still does mean that there's been some tension between Moyes and Steidten, and it still means that the Director of Football feels at the very least that he has to keep a working distance away from David Moyes. This is really quite a bizarre situation, because you think if a relationship breaks down ordinarily to this level, and if a situation is such that you feel people have got to be sort of kept away from each other in buildings, then what are we doing here? What are we doing? Because whilst West Ham can't qualify for Europe anymore, I think if we accept the story, then we accept that Tim Steidten is looking for a new manager. Then why, if we've already made a decision to get rid of David Moyes, why is he still in place? I would understand it if there was some belief within the club that if David Moyes stays here, he can get us into European football. But the moment he can't, then why is he still there? Because you now have this conflict from within the club, which is staying there until the end of the season. The conflict can be easily resolved by getting rid of one of the two men. And it certainly can't be Steidten, because he's the one tasked with bringing in, as we say, up to 8 signings and a new manager. I mean, this is just recent news in the last last 14 hours, really. So just sort of still reacting to it, really. This calls for strong leadership, actually. Calls for strong leadership from above, from the board, from whoever. It doesn't really matter, whoever, be it David Sullivan or Karen Brady, or I don't think Krasinski is overly involved in the club, but somebody needs to come and make this situation a little bit more workable. It's a sort of bad situation for the players as well. It's going to be really interesting to see how the team comes out and performs against Chelsea. But I mean, you can listen to more of that later on with myself and Gio in the preview, which we've already pre-recorded it, basically. David Moyes, from his point of view, this is a really weird one, because if he is offended, and this is what we're told, affronted, let's not go over offended, so overly used. David Moyes affronted that the Director of Football is looking for his successor. I understand why he wouldn't like it, and I understand why David Moyes would think he should get a new contract at West Ham. However, I think what it does do, it really shows quite how antiquated David Moyes' thinking is in football terms. This is normal. This is commonplace in pretty much every single football club in Europe. The Director of Football will obviously always be mandated to go and find a replacement for the current head coach. That's what David Moyes is. He's a head coach. I know he wants to be a manager, but that's what it is now. That's the role now. It's of head coach. And I think Moyes would probably know in his heart of hearts, really, that actually that's exactly what a Director of Football has to do. We've heard all this stuff about De Zerbi in the last sort of 24 hours. De Zerbi may be staying at Brighton. He may not be staying at Brighton. One thing we do know is De Zerbi was lined up before Potter left, before Graham Potter left Brighton. It's just a done thing. Make no mistake about it. Liverpool probably didn't want Jurgen Klopp to leave, but Arne Slot would have been scouted and would have been identified in the event of Klopp leaving, and he was. Actually, it's West Ham. It's exactly West Ham doing the reactive thing rather than proactive thing. Not just in managerial terms, but in player recruitment, in pretty much everything that we've done, which has got us into the trouble that we've been in so many times. So I find it a bit weird of Moyes to think that the director of football wouldn't be doing that. He's going to be looking at players, he's going to be looking at he's going to be looking at scouting, he's going to be looking at coaches, and of course, yes, he's going to be looking at the head coach. But this is not a healthy situation. And it is weird, certainly getting the gist of a lot of the stuff that was getting leaked yesterday. You got the impression that the club was waiting to breathe a sigh of relief at the end of the season, where they go, okay, it's over now. Now we can be a calmer ship. Now it can be, we were not sailing through such choppy waters. The weird thing is that's their own self-imposed deadline. It makes no sense. Honestly, if we agree that this is not a good situation, if we agree that it's uncomfortable, then why would it not be resolved earlier? I don't get that. I don't understand what the situation is for keeping Moyes there. There can only be one. Sounds like the Highlander. There could be only one, okay? Only one reason, and that is because they've not decided to let Moyes go yet. Well, I'll tell you something now. What they've done is they've created a worse situation, a far worse situation, because by this allowing this situation being allowed to get to the extent that it does, it's now either or. It's either Tim Steidten or David Moyes. They can't both coexist within this framework. They can't. They just can't. It's David Moyes affronted. He's annoyed that Tim Steidten, as he feels, has been looking for his successor behind his back. It's not behind his back. David Moyes didn't appoint Tim Steidten. It's not. He's just doing an HR role. That's all he's doing. Honestly, it's preposterous. It's preposterous. It's like anybody being in a company, and then when HR are going to recruit a new employee, them feeling that HR are being disloyal. It makes no sense at all. But if we at least concede that that's happened, then we have to at least conclude that there's some bad feeling there. So West Ham have to get rid of David Moyes now, or they have to get rid of Tim Steidten. If the decision is to keep David Moyes, Steidten's gone. Because David Moyes will, I'm telling you now, David Moyes will ostracise him. It's a crazy situation, and it shows how muddled the thinking is at West Ham. I honestly, yesterday, when I did the video yesterday about West Ham lacking the clarity of purpose, West Ham having an identity crisis, I didn't know anything about this. Anything. I find it absolutely bizarre, but I tell you what, it fits exactly with what I said. There's just no leadership. None. And I'm talking about strong leadership. I'm not talking about sniping on the quiet from behind the scenes. I'm talking strong leadership. Someone to step in and say, actually, can't have this. We cannot have this situation at a football club now. Here's I'm going to be decisive, make a decision now. Rather than let it sort of play out. The whole thing has got to play out until honestly, until the chorus line has done, the credits have rolled down and it says the end. I mean, as painful as it is, it can't be good for Moyes. It can't be good. It's not healthy. Crazy situation. I don't know how this has been allowed to develop, but certainly develop it has. And yes, I guess it's slightly better that Moyes hasn't banned him, but it's no good thing that someone is so concerned about a situation felt that they've had to remove themselves from it. I guess a bit better. It's not loads better. Anyway, there we go. Before I go, please point in the direction of our Patreon page, please. I say Patreon page, not Patreon page. No, page. It's our third Hammers Chat channel. It's a great way for you guys to help support Hammers Chat. We upload a video every single day on 2 separate channels, and we can only do that, well, because a lot of you long-suffering people put up with the horrible adverts that are on all of these videos. I do apologise for that, but honestly, it really does help you watching them. By our fantastic, amazing sponsors like ETC Sports, but also because of our lovely, loyal patrons. Now, what we do is it's a monthly subscription. Basically, you can do a week's free trial if you fancy. Give it a little whirl. Links in the description below. Patreon.com/HammersChat. We've got loads of prizes. Paqueta shirts. We've given away Bowen shirts. It's not just shirts. You get discounts to the Hammers Chat store as well. We do ticket giveaways, but we've got loads of additional content because it's a whole extra channel over there. We've got our naked podcast where we're fully clothed. We've got the Anton Ferdinand. Who's he? The Anton Ferdinand podcast. We've got Hammerlytics, we've got opposition previews, we've got breakfast shows, we've got player ratings, we've got impromptu videos like me yesterday ranting about David Moyes and Tim Steidten. We've got lots of me old man over there. If you'd like to see a little bit more of him, he's over there quite a lot as well. Loads and loads of additional content. 3 separate pay tiers. You choose the one which you prefer and which suits your budget. It's a really great way for you guys to support Hammers Chat. We really, really appreciate it. Right. I'm gonna go now and try and sort of just filter through a little bit more about this crazy situation at West Ham. What did Mark Noble say? Noble said, that's it. This club, it ain't run like a circus anymore.